Hello and welcome to the updated Dead by Daylight guide. I believe the one I made before was about 1.5 years ago at this point. And as always, some things to mention before we get into it. First of all, since this is an updated version, it does mean there are some things which would have changed over time. So if you are seeing this in the future, it probably means this might be outdated now. Secondly, I know previously I focused quite a lot on certain things which probably shouldn't have been given that much detail, so I will try and focus a lot more on the gameplay this time round. But that does also mean that if you are looking for specific guide, especially on certain killers, you should probably look at some kind of tips and tricks video for them instead of this. Now, the survivors do these generators you see here, so it's what me as the killer can see with these like red auras. If I'm not mistaken, there should be 7 of them, and as you can see in the bottom left of the screen, it has 5 and then a symbol of the generators. That means they have to do 5 generators, meaning that out of these 7 they only have to do 5. Now, as the killer, I can't tell how much progress they've done on a generator, but I can tell it's a lot. To avoid it going up much, I guess you could say, like to regress it, I can kick it like that. There's a little bar that shows it going down. There's in fact 2 bars. There's that grey bar, which if I go on here, grey bar's going back up now. And there's also that weird like sparky bar, I don't know how else to describe it, that like orange bar. You have to do enough repairs on the generator to then stop it regressing basically. Now if I continue with this, there might also be these skill checks that pop up in a second. Oh. Okay, the FPS is a bit dodgy on this one, but that was a skill check just now. Fading it blows up a gen. So I'm just going to say, if the audio ever seems a bit weird, that's because what you're hearing right now is the audio on this side instead. Also, regressing a generator, I think you can only do it up to 8 times, just on the same generator, right? So do be warned if you are playing as killer. Oh, okay. Survivors have just vaulted this. Okay, a few things. First of all, these red lines here, that appears from survivors running about. As you can see, she's just moving about right now. There's nothing around her. However, she starts running. Boom. There's all these red marks. The survivors don't see it themselves, it's just the killer, unless the survivors have a specific perk. They're what we call scratch marks. If I hit Meg here, first of all, that's another thing. The current health state, as you might say, for all the survivors right now is healthy. If I do a hit on them... Sorry, I lagged out a bit there, verdict to it. She's now injured. It's also started this music, as you can hear. That just means they're in chase. If I leave, yeah, chase stops. So, injured, and then hit them again. They're knocked down. You then pick them up after hitting them. And as you can see, there's all these hooks around the map. For the survivor, this keeps on appearing when they're being carried. This indeed is another skill check. I'm not moving the killer right now. This is just what happens when you start wiggling a survivor. And as you can see, there's that wiggle bar. And... boom. You get off them. If we go back to try and hooking them. Boom. They've been hooked. Now, a few things. First of all, there's that white line on me when I'm hooked. The survivor teammates would see that on me, but the killer wouldn't. That means I'm in the first hook stage. As you can see, there's a little progress bar there. If it reaches the halfway point, it'll reach the second stage. Okay, so this is another thing. First of all, it says unhook. Now, this means I've got a guaranteed unhook because of that golden bar. This is because the killer's been right next to me on hook this whole time. Anyway, if I try and unhook myself, instant rescue. Hit her again. Oh, sorry, she has endurance. Now, if I go to pick up Meg again and hook her, that'll put her in the second hook state, because she was only on the first one before. So hooking her again would do the second. Because she's the last survivor, it will also then skip to the third hook state, because no one can rescue her. Now the third hook state, that means death. So generally speaking, the survivor normally gets hooked. A teammate goes to unhook them. When they then get hooked again, second hook state, unhooked, hooked again, third hook state, and they're dead. Now there are 2 other ways survivors can die. As you can see, there's a health bar on her right now from her being knocked down. If that reaches the bottom part, she will also die. Alternatively, because she's the last one here, I can actually kill her just off the ground, which does this animation which is kind of unique for each killer. It's what we call the Mori. So, these buildings I don't know if you could call them building, like these kind of areas, typically around where the generators are, but all of these are what we call loops. So there's things like these windows, which survivors can vault, and also these pallets, which if I let her throw it, it stuns the killer if I am too close when it's dropped. Now the killer can break these pallets, survivors can vault over it, so usually around a lot of loops, especially this one, it's kind of awkward because as you can see, they're just going to keep on staying at that pallet. You kind of have to be forced to break it unless you can work out a way around getting them. As I said before, there's that progress bar. There's also that first hook state she's in right now. I forgot to mention that as you can see in the bottom left next to Jen, there's also that hook thing with one like red segment on it right now. That goes up each time you get a hook state. Now I've got myself over here, so I'll quickly go over and save. I might then do the toxic thing of tunneling now. Tunneling is what we call targeting the person who you just went for. Also, I forgot to say, killers can vault windows as you can see, but it's nowhere near the same kind of speed. And if we kept on doing this, it would be an infinite loop because can't really catch up to them doing that. So, I got near again. Once I hook her, as you'll see in a second, instantly half the progress on that like hook thing. And as you can see, there's now these. That's the second phase. And during that time, survivors will actually get these skill checks they have to hit when they're on the hook. Failing them makes the progress go down more. Skill checks are quite a valuable thing as survivor. Now I'll quickly go pressure another survivor so that the other one gets unhooked. Now this is a very strong loop. I'll go into it later of course. I imagine I'll mention it quite a few times, but this is what we call shack. Okay, Nia's just been unhooked, so we'll go for her again, just to show you how it works normally. I wouldn't recommend doing this. Well, I mean, you can if you want, of course. It's typically seen as quite toxic, what I'm doing here. I'm only doing it because it's bots, of course. Vault again, yeah, that's a hit. Also, that's enough. I imagine I'll probably show it, but from the killer perspective, it just looks like that, and you can still vault it. But from the survivor, in this case the Nia, who vaulted that, it's completely blocked for them when it looks like that. It's only for the one who's got it blocked like that. It's not for every survivor. But essentially, during chase, so when you get this music, if they vault a window 3 times, it gets blocked like that. So they can't just infinitely vault like that. I'm actually getting rolled by these bots, I'm not gonna lie. Also, that explosion over there, it's a notification you get whenever there's something loud, I suppose you could say, happening. In this case, it's only because of myself over there. It's because I have these crows around me. Now, as you can see, she's now dead. So what I mean by the crows are here. This just means survivor's been AFK for ages, basically. So once I hook this Kate, I'll bring her to a pallet, which are, if you remember these things here. Normally for this, it has to be really well timed. Pallet would have to be dropped now, about, roughly speaking anyway. Actually, maybe a bit later. Anyway, normally, you get a pallet like this, right? And then, boom. Survivor drops it, you get stunned. And she's now back up again. So basically, to explain what just happened, whenever you get stunned while carrying a survivor, you drop them as the killer. Also blinded, for that matter. I think the only other thing I forgot to mention is just about these gates. So you can see it says open escape. And then there's that progress bar. If you let go, it keeps the progress. It's nothing like you have to keep it going for that way. Now, something some people do, also the people will start about now. There we go. Now, if I let go now, about there, that's what we call 99 negate. As you may have guessed, it's getting 99% progress. And that's because if you see that progress bar at the top, that's about to go down. And that's the end game collapse. If I can knock just about in time anyway. Boom. Starts to slow down. That's what happens when anyone's been knocked or hooked. But essentially, opening a gate starts that timer, the end game collapse. Now, as I just said, 99 on the gate, that means that someone can have a gate ready to go. Boom, they pop it. and only now does the endgame collapse start. I could have showed it there, I didn't really think about it, but if a survivor's still alive, once that timer reaches 0, as you may have guessed, survivor dies. Just as a little note, if you go on settings and then accessibility, you can see the heartbeat visual support. That's how you always see that heartbeat symbol on survivor. And also under general and then beta, there's quite a few things. First of all, first person FOV. I always have this up to a max for killer. And also now there's a lot of customization behind what you want the colors of certain auras to be. And also not to mention the scratch marks. Now I personally haven't really seen too much of a difference with scratch marks. If anything, I find it easier just to do it on default. But especially when it comes to the auras of like generators or something, it would be quite nice if you have that as a different color to the survivors. Because especially when survivors are on generators, when you're playing killer, they can sometimes blend in with the generator. So by having them as distinct colors now, that can help quite a lot. Before anything else, I'd really recommend just doing the tutorials along with the survive and kill with bots. Because even if you do feel like you can understand a lot about the game, you might not have a feel for it yet. Not to mention as well, I believe you get David King and Wraith from playing it, so it's definitely worth it to do just for that. Now when it comes to a lot of the stuff in the lobby, I can talk about this for both Survivor and Killer, so we're going to do it all in one go. When you play matches, you get blood points. These blood points are spent in the blood web. Everything you see in your loadout is gained through that blood web. You have items, which are just a survivor thing, but then add-ons, offerings, and perks are something killers and survivors both have. The items are something which just help the survivors quite a lot. It could be something like a medkit, for example, to heal themselves, or to heal another survivor quicker. You have add-ons which make the items stronger. In the killer's case, it's to make their actual ability stronger. You have offerings, which there are a bunch of, but overall I would recommend just doing the blood point offerings, because one of the most valuable things, especially when you're new, are the blood points. Now when it comes to perks, which are the most game-changing thing of it all, almost all of them are a personal perk of a certain character. So when you go into bio of a character, you'll notice there's 3 perks with them. At first, those 3 perks are only available to that character when you play as them, but you can get them on everyone else once you prestige the character with those perks. Whenever you complete the blood web, you level up. Get it to level 50, then it lets you prestige. And if we then click on the prestige, there's a way you can then see what rewards you get, with it showing prestige 1, 2 and 3 with those personal perks. Because of all of this, it does mean there are better characters to level up at first when you're new. I'd say on Survivor, Meg or potentially Feng, if you're on console, are probably the best ones to level up. And then for Killer, go for Billy. Just because there are certain things, such as being blinded, which will happen to you way more often when you're brand new. So just for a quick recap, play matches. From the blood points you'll get there, I'd say level up Meg, but if you do have her, Feng. And for Killer, Hillbilly. That isn't to say though to use Hillbilly. I'd say if anything, play as Wraith, who as I said earlier is actually someone you get from playing those tutorials. Now to get more specifically into perks, I'd say there's maybe 3 categories you could put most of them into. There's information, progress, I suppose you could say, or maybe objective, something like that, where it's to do with maybe healing survivors or doing generators, that kind of thing. And then finally we have chase. For both survivor and killer, I would say it's quite good to have a mix of all of them. If we were to take an example of a build I use on David, we have made for this. More so a chase perk. It might not look like it when you read it, but it's basically if you heal in front of the killer's face, it's a way you can take another hit, so it's definitely to do with when the killer's on you. I have Lithe, which is an exhaustion perk. Exhaustion perks I'd also just recommend always having one of. And as I already said earlier with Feng, that's actually one of her personal perks, which is, again, another reason why she's good. Alternatively, Meg's decent as well because she has Sprint Burst, which is another very good exhaustion perk. And again, that would count as a chase perk because it's to do with moving quickly, but usually for when the killer's after you. I then have Spine Chill, which I use as an information perk. It's a way to let me know when the killer's looking at me. Again, as I recommended with Feng, she has the perk perk alert. It literally shows you where the killer is at certain times. And then finally I've got quick and quiet, which is a chase perk, which happens to be from Meg, and it's just a way to throw off the killer when they're chasing you. And then for killer side, same categories and everything. So if we went with Pyramid Head, for example, who's my main killer, he's actually someone I've done a guide on if any of you are interested in playing him. And as you can see, there's I'm All Ears. It might look like an information perk, but it's a way to hit survivors while you're chasing them. You have Nurse's Cooling, just a way you can see survivors when they're healing. I have Ruin, which is a way to protect generators. It's like a progress one. And then finally we have Save the Best for Last, which is a chase perk. If you're trying to look into things like a specific build to use, it's probably best just to look up something exact for them. And secondly, you don't have all the perks when you're new or anything, so most of the time you kind of just have to make do with what you have. Remember, you can have a bit of synergy between perks. If we were to take Killer for example, you could run something like Barbecue and Chili and then Pop Goes the Weasel, because with those together it could mean that you'd be able to hook a survivor, see survivors far away that are maybe on a generator, and then with Pop Goes the Weasel you get to damage that generator a lot. And with that being said, let's get into the actual gameplay. One to like see information, all that kind of stuff. Okay, this gen just started regressing because of my one gen protection perk basically, called Ruin. Now it's what we call a hex perk. There'll be this totem that's lit up around the map. Oh, I shouldn't have done that. In fact, you can see it there, the little red thing. When you go up to it, as you can see, it's lit up. It means that once the survivor goes over to cleanse it, that perk will no longer be available. And every time I hit someone who's not the obsession... Oh, okay, that's the sound of the perk going, the Ruin perk I said. So as you can see, it's no longer lit up on the left. So now I have no gem protection, other than just like kicking gens myself. It's not too good, to be honest. Lovely. That is so satisfying. Now it's down to last survivor. They could do that last gen, technically speaking, but more likely they're trying to find Hatch. And here it is, in fact. Okay, this is awkward. I think they escape here. Those two gates are really far apart. They're not something I can easily check between. If they play this well, then I won't be able to get them. Never mind. They're hiding somewhere here. Here they are. They should have stealthed that out. So the thing is, at those gates, I knew instantly because they did so much progress on the gate that it started flashing red. I believe I showed that in the example with like bots and everything, right, in the custom game. Also, I think I completely forgot to explain what Hatch was. Oh, just missed. See if we can catch them off guard with this. Yep. Oh, couldn't go for the morning. Oh, here's another thing. The only remaining player is a bot, so I can actually abandon that match if I want to. Which simply just means that I can leave the match early without having any penalty. That's what happens if you ever get the abandon option. That's a lot of blood points, my word. I had really good pressure at the end. I mean, granted, the generators were all relatively far apart and I couldn't see them all. But the thing is, I also had someone hooked in that area. It just means that if I stay in that area, survivors have to risk something. So if I go to a generator, they have to run off to where I'm not going to go. There's no point in following them. But at the same time, they don't want to run away because there's someone on the hook in that whole area. So one of them wants to get the unhook, otherwise they just kill off on their teammates. Also, just while I'm here, let's look at the builds people had. So Windows of Opportunity. I don't think I've mentioned this one, but it's quite nice for new players. You literally get to see where all of the looping areas are, I guess you could say. So it's very good if you don't know the places that well. Botany knowledge, that's something I didn't really talk about much, so of course you can also bring healing perks. So right now, as always, just checking which gens people might be on. First of all, we know that nowadays survivors all spawn together, meaning that if I find a gen that someone's on, I already know like the other survivors have got to be somewhere close by. At the very least, like on one of the other nearby gens. So, I've just seen someone here. I know it's got to be like this general ballpark. So that's one thing. This gen's still being progressed. I could tell since I couldn't see it regressing, of course, with the ruin. This person, like, they already got a vault. Like, look at this setup. If I go around here, they'll continue, and, like, it's a bit awkward. I may as well go for the easy hit. Like, you know, the person who was still on the gen who wasn't paying as much attention. I know from my maul ears that the other person is literally staying there. That person's about to get the vault. Why not catch this person off guard now? Because that's a lot more awkward vault. Look, they had to do like a rushed one. Or like a, you know, the one that isn't the fast one. They should drop the pallet here. Also, the Meg up there. She's still in this area. She should have left way back. I know that there was someone over by the left side area way back, wasn't there? First person I saw. Over by the other building, that wasn't Shaq. They should have run off to that kind of area. They'd have been healed. Also, another thing is, yeah, just assumed they wouldn't drop the pallet. They really should have, to be honest. That was their best way out of this. And I already know the Meg is still here, so may as well go for her. And the people I was talking about that I saw at first, yep, they just did the gen over there. And now, 2 cages. Actually, I imagine I'll hook one of them. Yeah, I'd probably hook the other one, don't I? Because they'd probably be caged to the same place, wouldn't they? Or not. Maybe I was just thinking of like where the other survivors were at this point. So I know 2 of them at least are over there now. This gen's been regressed, so it's probably for the person who unhooked. So now I know it's the Vittorio who's going for the other unhook, presumably. Also here, this is... I don't know what these would be called, but this is a specific loop, right? It's in quite a few maps. Sometimes there's a gen there, but the point is, you have this like little L-shaped thing, pallet here, and then it's like a U shape almost. They should see my red stain here. They should have started reacting. They reacted while I was like halfway through here. So that was a bad play on their part. They could have gone around this at least once, I reckon. I know someone just got off this gen. My best guess is that it was the person I already went for though, so I left them alone. Okay, so I know 2 are there. I know the Yunjin, so the injured person, is over by the gen at Shack, over there. And now I know that the final person I haven't gone for is the one right here. If you look here, maybe, there he is. I saw him, I thought he's going for the unhook, hence why I got out the ability straight away. Then use sprint burst. Got auto aims there, that's unfortunate. For some reason, basically this game, as it suggests, it like auto aims onto survivors. Oh, there's no oh, there's 2 windows. Oh, that's a weird loop. Don't know if you can call that loop even. Loop is just a no-go against Pivoted. They really should have left that area. I don't know why none of them healed up. That's a really stupid move, especially in this area, because as I said, this looping's awful against Pivoted. This pallet here is probably the best loop in that entire section of the map, by the looks of it. And that's just because he doesn't have good like line of sight on the survivor. I'm freshening this person because if I get them, which I think I do here, yeah, it now leaves that final person to save everyone else. Meaning whatever they're doing, they have to stop it and save them. Now I've seen they've picked them up. So one of them's going to have W key straight there. Either that or they had their own way of picking them up. So I see that guy, he's the one I just knocked, he's over there. And that person's just been unhooked. Now, given that distance, there's no way this guy was the one-to-one hook. It's definitely this person. So now that I'm looking back, I imagine this guy actually had some way of picking himself up. Probably Unbreakable. You can't pick yourself up normally, but perks like Unbreakable can actually let you do that. And yep, they're all healing here. Literally nowhere else to go but there because it's literally the only remaining ones. Okay, that was stupid. I was just trying to do some stupid tricks by the looks of it. I imagine I'll go for the Yunjin because I think, yeah, she must have been the last one I'd have hooked at this point. They actually go to Luke, that's probably best against Pyramid Head. Here, going off the killer instinct, I was trying to just guess where they would be. And it seems like they also fell for classic mind game. So here, just, yeah, a bit of moonwalking, threw them off. No, I knew they wouldn't make it to pallet. May as well cage, because if someone happened to be hiding around, then they can get the pallet save. This was to bait the dead hard, and they still managed to dead hard. So that's why some of the higher level players can be very patient, because they then expect certain things like that. The only other loop they could go to is this house, which by the way is quite strong, because again it's got stairs, like, so there's all sorts around here. Guess what they did though? Yeah, they went to the corner of the map. Do not do this if you're them. Alright, that's just given a free kill. Again, I just checked for offerings in case people bring an offering for hatch spawning. So there are 2 offerings. One of them can spawn hatch at shack. The other can spawn hatch at main building as a guarantee. If there aren't those, then it can be any random place on the map. Generally speaking, I tend to go towards shack whenever it is hatch left, just because I feel like it's a bit more reliable. And I do get weirdly lucky, I guess. Although technically that wasn't a shack hatch. And now I know this is just an easy kill. Because this guy doesn't have a key yet. Well, he's not going to get a gate open, is he? And I'm able to Mori him here. Which you may also notice, completely different animation to the final judgment from before. Now, I'll stop that game there and show a little something that happens straight after. Because this is something quite important to bear in mind with just Dead by Daylight in general. Because it doesn't seem like anything crazy that happened in this game. Like, you know, it didn't seem like I did anything that would come across as toxic. Yet, look at what happens. Next up, I thought it'd be quite nice to show the Adept Lara game I got. Adept, whatever it's pronounced. So for those who don't know, that's where you use those 3 personal perks, what I've mentioned before, but those 3 only, and then escape as that survivor. And the only thing to really mention is just the perk Finesse, just for if at any point you're confused as to why you sometimes see it much quicker. Wait, is that? I swear, wait. I think that hook might mean it's a xenomorph. Or maybe not. Oh wait, yeah, it's a xenomorph. I haven't seen this killer in ages. Is he behind me? I actually can't see.
Bloody hell!
Thanks. I genuinely couldn't work out where he was. Looks like he's just going on his way. Oh no.
No, no, no!
So we've got pallet here, probably a window. No. Okay. Probably gonna use this ability here. Double back. Oh. Don't think he'd do that. Okay, for some reason I could see someone's aura. The basement. Getting the chest right now. Remember, I have hysteria, so yep. I'm not completely certain of when he's on me. Pre-drop this so I can get away. There's no tires nearby. Okay. So as you can see, it's doing a little beeping now because he's relatively close to us. Okay, it looks like he has pain resonance. If you notice, there was a little shockwave over there. It means the gen exploded. That was just as the hook was done. So something I forgot to mention with generators is those lights up there. Don't know if... Okay, yeah. You see over there, it's like this constant beaming light. That means that generator's over there is done. This one means it hasn't been. There he is. I'll run him over to Shack because we have a bunch of turrets here. I imagine he'll probably attack the turret rather than going for me. But... There's a pallet there, right? Yeah, I thought I saw him.
Back off!
Yeah, he's broken. Should be another loop here. Okay, yeah. Presumably left me though, that's the best move on his part. He does have a bit of a 3-gen to be honest. For this final gen, there's always 3 generators left. A 3-gen is quite literally just when you have 3 gens all close by. I'll go with this. Won't make it. He expects that. Oh no. Just. He'll do it again here. Or not. I want to get out, man. Perfect. They're on the gate. Okay. He'll probably teleport. Okay, unless he has nowhere, do I make it out? Yeah, Pain Resonance, Bamboozle, Grim Embrace, Hysteria. Apart from Hysteria, that's a very strong build. Hysteria is pretty good, but like those 3 in particular, they're some of the strongest in game. For this next part, I thought it'd be better to actually talk about some Gamesense, and also just maybe a few chases if they're ever showed in these games. Now, just for a bit of clarification, these games were from like 3 months ago, because as you may notice, there's this snowball thing down here in the bottom, and during this event I decided to do a few solo queue games, quite a few of which showed either me doing well or badly in chase, the killer doing things that weren't so good, my teammates doing things that weren't so good, and so I think it's probably best just to show a few moments from all of these games where I can point out certain things. So something straight off the bat, I don't think I've really mentioned this before. Sometimes there's these symbols next to the perks in the bottom right. The light blue ones mean they're from survivor teammates. The red ones mean they're from killers. Which is why I believe knowledge in this game can help massively. I can tell you though straight away, this blue thing is from a survivor perk called Vigil, meaning one of the teammates nearby would have had this activate for me, and it means things like exhaustion will be quicker. That's very nice to know. The red one, arguably even more important to know, is called Human Greed. And it means that any survivors near a chest which is closed have their aura revealed. And the fact it's popping up right there means the killer can see my aura. Now, I've just gotten onto a generator. Maybe I wasn't paying attention to the perk, but yeah, killer can still see me. And as I previously said about my perks, I have Spine Chill here. That's lit up because the killer's looking at me. I don't know if you can tell very easily, but just look over there. So this killer is Pig. To put it very simply, she can crouch. You won't hear her terror radius, so you won't know when she's near you. Okay, there's a killer problem straight off the bat. If they didn't realise I was there, there should have been scratch marks on the ground. That's definitely a problem of them not looking around. Also, I was working on that generator, it had a sound to it. She would have heard that. Because of the human greed perk, they'd have seen my aura as well. There was no good reason for them to have left me there. Okay, and then they turn around after realising I was that way. So my best guess now is that they misread where I was. They didn't see me the first time, were following scratch marks and couldn't work out where the scratch marks led. Okay, I was a bit confused there. I have no idea why that pallet dropped like that. Probably gonna vault to this window. Because of light as well, that means... Oh, right, I messed up. Killers sometimes get thrown off by you being really fast, so when you're nearby them, you can actually sometimes bait them into swinging like that. I didn't intend for that to be the case, of course, because I was simply just stuck. And then for some reason those two stay on the generator. Now in that situation, that was actually probably the killer's best move as well, because they still hadn't gotten a hit on me, and they just got a free hit from a person working on a generator, not to mention it was two people doubling up on it. So by going to that generator, she's now turned it from 3 people working on generators to just 1 person, along with getting an injury on one of them. I don't think I mentioned this before. As you might have just noticed, there were these crows that landed. Those crows aren't just like a decoration. Basically, if anyone's running past them or anything, they fly off, and then they come back after, I believe, around 30 seconds. So of course, this doesn't really mean anything to the killer, because they were just here. But if there was a survivor they were trying to look for, and they saw crows flying off, they'd know a survivor was just there. Landing, they know a survivor was there recently. Another thing I forgot to mention with Pig is she puts these traps down on people when they're knocked. Simply put, when a gen's then done after that trap, they'll die if they can't get that trap off in time. Now, for some reason, as you may be able to see, there's these like spider thingy-majigabys moving. I don't know what you'd call them. That means that Leon's in chase. But she just downed someone there. That's not what we want. Actually, hold on, I just realised something. Go back a bit. Let's hear that again. Right, that sound was a firecracker. So, as I'm assuming I mentioned before, you can blind the killer as a survivor. Usually that's with flashlights, but you can also get things like firecrackers, flashbangs. It's basically a thing you drop down on the ground, and if well timed, especially with picking someone up, it can work just like a flashlight save. I don't know what that Leon was doing, man. My best guess is maybe they thought the animation of her putting the trap down on the person was instead her picking up the survivor. Oh, in fact, she's tunneling. Usually seen as quite a toxic thing, and I'm sure you can probably imagine why. It's because you're effectively getting rid of one of the players straight off the bat. It's not very nice for the survivors to experience. Well, that is when they're new anyway. Now, after realising this, it looks like I'm going over to take a hit. Ah, sorry, I forgot to mention that as well. So you can freeze pallets because of the event. But also, on another note, that hit from Leon was pointless. We're still in this area. Okay, now here, that's perfect. If she commits, I can body block and the other person vaults over. If they go around, then we just simply stay on this side. What on earth? Her first thought should not have been to vault that. I was there for the body block. So if you are new to the game and someone's trying to take a hit for you like I am, I'm there to take the first hit. So what their first thought should have been is not to stay at this loop. It should have been to go over to somewhere safer. Okay, Leon with a flashbang. So that was a flashbang if you saw it. It's like that little explosion. Now I'm trying to hang around because if we let these two people get hooked so early on, we are kind of done for. To be honest, that person should have just stayed on that generator. Oh, they did go back. Perfect. And that's because... Wait, did they get off again? Oh dear. Yeah, they went over to get the unhook. That's not really good for us. Because right now the killer's pressuring everyone. Okay, she's chasing the other person now, so I think to try and save. Perfect. But she's gone back to camp worried about the unhook. Because I'm then running away, we'll then want that other person to go get the unhook. So I'm leading her to this loop here. She then left me worried about the hook again. And she... Perfect. Committed to that person too much, gives me the unhook. Problem now lies in the fact that this person is dead on their next hook. Now, I have no idea why they're running that way. Let's think back to just the area in general here. We had this loop here. So we had pallet. There's a window down here as well on the right. It's a fairly decent loop. And when I get the save, we have this pallet right here. The one right here. Another pallet here. Another pallet here. I think they went into main building. Yeah, they did. By the way, we know that I think 1 or 2 people have been knocked down in main building now. This main building, I believe, has around 2 pallets. Likelihood is that's a dead zone now. Let's see if she gets down soon. Right, of course this is like solo queue, you can't really blame him. By the way, the reason why I got off that generator there, the other person unfortunately finished it. If we look, we still have, well, one of them's about to die on hook anyway, but the Leon at least has a trap. We now just activated it. Now I come back over for the body block again, because this guy has just been hooked. Perfect. That's exactly what we want. I'm stood in a way where she can't get past me. Because he's vaulted, and then she hits me, he's got plenty of distance now to get away. He can make it to this pallet if he wants, the one after, actually. At this point, I'm just trying to distract the killer while my teammate does everything else. That was a risky move on my part. That was kind of like a 50. They then get the save, Pig leaves. Not the brightest move on Pig's part. Really not the brightest move. Think about what would happen if she committed to me. Leon then has to get the trap off because it's activated. Remember we did that generator earlier. I'm also injured. I could only go on for so long. Remember I'm exhausted as well. There's no way I can get life back when it still has... I'm imagining that's about 18 seconds of not running while in chase with her that close. The only thing she'd have to worry about is knocking me down in time before the other person by themselves does 2 generators. What does she do instead? Okay, that's interesting. She lets the other person start on a generator. I then see a generator over here and I'm able to pressure that one too. So instead of going for the people who are currently pressuring generators, she goes for the one person who's already gonna have to worry about a trap on their head. Now it's very awkward for this because there's no real getting out of here because it's 2 of us injured. I can't get that generator done in time. Actually maybe I'll 99 it. If I do, I'll explain why. I do. Okay, perfect. Well, there wasn't much point to it now that the killer's coming over here. But of course the killer will know which gen I've been working on. That was a really risky move on the killer's part. Now I don't think I'll make the unhook in time. I don't. This is the dash I mentioned. Worst thing the killer could have possibly done. Get stunned on that side. It's the only way I could have possibly gotten an unhook there. I then unhook on this side so she can't hit me from the side. The other person was trying to body block because they got endurance there. It's a bit unfortunate for me to get down. Anyway. Oh my god. Okay, that almost worked. But... oh wait, sorry, I thought I was injured. Never mind, let's see the last of this chase. This is the loop I said earlier, remember, with the pallet in the window at the end. I was definitely planning on trying to vault that there. But this is kind of how you'd want to loop it. It wasn't perfect because, of course, I'm now in the edge of the map. And yeah, that's GG. Right, so this next one is against Oni, I believe. It is. So, from what I remember, the chases were actually really bad. Like, I chased really badly, but it worked out for me. So let's see. So I'm the only one working on generator. That's actually kind of concerning. So we see Zarina in chase, but okay, we have to wait on generator now, never mind. Okay, Dia's doing a chest right now. Not really the best thing to be doing right now. Going off the heartbeat on is probably... never mind. No, they are coming over. Because of spine shield, we know he's nearby. Ah, that was unfortunate. I wasn't paying attention there. At moments like that, you may see I'm just like stood there. It's basically me just waiting to see what he does, because there's moments where you can double back to catch the survivor off guard. It's been a bit of time now, I've just been working on Jen at the edge. I'm can't... Right, so here, you may be wondering why I wasn't just running straight off the bat. Here's the thing, chase starts the second you run in front of the killer. The reason why it's bad to actually get chase music when you're survivor is because of bloodlust. I can't quite remember exactly how long it is, maybe like 15 or 20 seconds now. But after that time in chase, without being able to hit the survivor and not breaking any pallets or anything, you then start getting bloodlust 1, which makes you go 5% faster, 2 for 10%, 3 for 15%. So the best thing to do is start chase as late as possible when you're survivor. The chase music, that is. Because notice, I'm still not in chase right now. This is still just the terror radius. Now it's chase. You'll also notice, because the name lights up and there's those like spider things again to show you in chase. But before that point, I wasn't in chase at all, despite him being right there. That was bad on his part to just swing like that. I could have reacted in time. Ah, that was smart of him if that's what he meant to do there. Because he baited out the stun. It means I can't really get away from that situation. I'm literally zoned now. If he breaks that pallet, there's nowhere for me to go. So it's really not the best kind of pallet to start on if you want a long chase, that's for sure. He panicked there. I got surprised as well, clearly. So he should have definitely hit me there. He just, yeah, really tried rushing things. Okay, so there as well. It might be hard to tell if you're not used to seeing this kind of thing, right? But again, as I dropped the pallet, when he was going over, you see I crouch. That's to make him think for, even just for a split second, that I've just vaulted. Like, because any movement when you're stood still next to a pallet can make the killer think you're vaulting. And in this situation, it's literally a 50. Like, you know, it's a 50-50 chance on whether you win this vault, as you might say. It's kind of like a game of bluffing, you know, so I'm at this pallet. If he thinks I'm gonna fake the vault each time, he can go around and hit me. If I end up vaulting though, that would mean I won that 50, that kind of thing. So I just crouched to make him think I was gonna vault. And then I took a gamble, literally a 50 as you can see, because if he went right instead of left, from my point of view, he'd hit me as I'm vaulting here. But I took a gamble of thinking he's going to assume I'm going to keep on faking it. Don't know why he swung there. Also, by the way, remember, at this point, he hasn't broken any pallets, he's just been missing me every time. He's probably got bloodlust at this point. Broke the pallet, so there goes bloodlust. So now he's back to regular speed. Actually lost chase for a moment there as well. Okay, so here, at first, I wasn't wanting to use that pallet. I'm guessing because I wanted there still to be some pallets for my teammates. I then see that the next pallet's down there. I know from this distance he'd reach me in time. I then go out to the fence. I noticed there's, well, I couldn't really see it, but I saw there were no pallets out on this left side either. And so, you can actually just simply use this fence as a way to gain distance against them. Okay, whoa, what was that? That wasn't intended though. I'm guessing I didn't want to go on the pallet because that's a crazy risky move from this point. But then, I realised when I was going to go around the car, he'd reached me before I'd make it round to the pallet, most likely. So I think I hesitated there to think, oh wait, I need to go to the pallet at this distance. But then I went backwards. Somehow that threw him off guard. I don't know what they were thinking. And then the killer's just, yeah, swinging through stuff. I then left myself a pallet here still. And at this point, let's see what he does. He leaves. That's good of him, because remember, he's been on me this entire time. Survivors have rightfully so been doing generators. So if he kept on committed to me, chances are all the gens might be popped at that rate. Also bear in mind, actually, yeah, I say all of this. The reality is actually probably just that he has Tinkerer. So as you may notice, there's no red stain there. Normally in front of the killer, you see that red stain to show where they're looking. You also can't hear any music. Because I have like the visualize heartbeat stuff, you'll notice there's no heartbeat on me right now, meaning there's no tear radius or chase. So he's undetectable right now. Because survivors are on a generator that has a lot of progress, likelihood is that's Tinkerer. Especially because as he went undetectable, he then went to a generator we see survivors on. That perk, Tinkerer, is from Billy, which is one of those killers I suggested leveling up. So next up we have Bubba, or his official name, the Cannibal, and we have two people who just got downed while I was doubled up on this jet with Claudia. To be honest, we should not have been doubled up. We should have just done two different generators, would have been far more efficient. And then because the other person's about to get picked up, I'm gonna assume it's okay to unhook. Claudette at this point should just be thinking to do a generator because I'm here for the save. She already knows I'm there because she just saw someone hooked right here, then get saved, and I'm healing them, so she should know full well we're all over here. And there's the killer. He's probably about to go right here because he was nearby. Looks like they're gonna chase me. I remember this match very vaguely, and I think it was quite a fun one, so we'll see it again. Sorry. So this map is crazy with pallets. There's just pallets everywhere. And, well, because it's an indoor map, it's usually quite, like, static, as you might say. Okay, so there's another thing as well, just map knowledge in general. If we look, I already knew he was over by the pallets, so I knew he was going to come out on one or two ends. So I just stood there because there was a pallet back there. I'd have been a bit too greedy to go to that. Bear in mind as well, Bubba's main ability is a chainsaw. That means he can insta-down healthy survivors. So it's especially bad to get risky in front of him. We'll probably do a basic attack here. So yeah, indoor maps are static, so... Well, mostly static anyway, meaning like the loops and everything are usually in the same places. Looks like Bubba's coming back over here now. There he is. I was not expecting to drop down. Okay, that was lucky for me, because if it was the other way around there, I mean, to be fair, I might not have been in that situation if it's the other way around, but what I'm at right now, you might not recognize, but it's actually TNL walls. Usually an outdoor map kind of thing, where you have a T-shaped wall, which is what you see here with the window there, and then an L-shaped wall behind, where you don't have that extra wall there. So if I then had to do like a medium vault thing here, there's a chance he'd be able to down with the chainsaw there. It was only because I had that extra fast vault thing I could do here which let me escape that. I'm not going to bother trying to work out why two people keep on getting themselves downed at the same kind of times. Okay, here's an important thing now. I assumed that Dwight was going for the save, but because I've just seen him in chase, I need to get off that generator because we are kind of done for if I commit to the generator and he then gets downed. Interestingly enough, that Dwight is able to get back on a generator. Bubba's back over here. Let's see, will he tunnel? He will tunnel. So I now know I can also just save the other person. Okay, that was a bit strange. I thought that Dwight would maybe just commit to the generator. Dwight's also healing, so we know both Dwight and Claudette are healing up right now. We can see the Nicolas Cage is in chase. So I'm the only one able to do generators right now. Now this is probably going to be a good reason of why you don't always 99 gates. As we might see in a second anyway. Okay, so yeah, that gate's already been opened. Unless someone is down oh, someone was on standby to be fair. But just think about it for a second. If no one was there to open the gate for us, if it was left 99 so that we had to like tap the switch to then open the door, if it was just me and the Claudette there, we'd have probably got downed. So I know it ended up fine, but I will just say as a side note, do be careful when deciding to 99 a gate, for example. And if the killer is right on you, you want the gate to already be open. But that being said, the Bubba definitely had an unfortunate game. Right, so there's one last game I thought would be important to go through, where they were basically saying it's hard to get last gen done because they were close by. So, when I spawn in, to be fair, just at first glance, you could argue, yeah, all these gens are actually kind of close. And I'm assuming this is the kind of thing they're talking about, right? So they already started by pressuring this middle gen. In a way, that's actually one of the best gens they could have started with. By getting rid of that one, it's harder for me to pressure everything. Actually, in fact, here we have a view of all the gens, I believe. It's nothing too crazy. If they kept that main gen up there, the gallows gen, and let's say maybe this gen, I think that would still be very awkward for me to pressure. Okay, that's actually good for them. They're pressuring this middle gen. That's not too bad, again, as I've said. So yeah, in fact, just from me going through here right now, I'd say this gen here in the middle kind of area and this gen to my right, and let's say maybe this gallows gen or that gen here, you do not want them to be the last ones left. Look how close they all are. So it is good of them to have been pressuring those ones. And just as a reminder, look how long it's taken me to actually reach this main gen while I'm chasing this person. So this is a good one to leave until the end. Note that it already has progress. Okay, that was a bit silly of me to use my ability like that. Oh, did you hear that? Someone's on that generator again. Oh, was that main gen? I don't think I showed that whole chase, but I took a while to actually get my first down. It's been 2 gens in that time, and remember earlier we had people doubling up on that middle gen. They could have potentially done that in the time I was chasing. If I wanted to put in the most pressure, I wouldn't have hooked them here. I should have hooked them more inwards so that I could go to a generator. If someone goes for the unhook, I can pressure them if I wanted to, that kind of thing. Make them go all the way out here, I don't know if that's the best move on my part. Oh, okay, 3 gens popped, 1 hook. And let's remember which gens have popped so far. Not the best ones for their situation. And in fact, if we're looking right now, we have this faraway gen. They need to keep this one till the end. They have to. The middle gen, I reckon, is still the best one for them to go for. We have a gallows one up here. I have to go up these stairs and stuff to kick it. Especially if they find my ruin, it's a whole lot trickier. Oh, and the final gem was here. Look at the distance between that far gen and this one here. They need those two, at the very least, for the end. Because remember, they have main build in here. That's quite good for Lupin. So if I start trying to chase someone who goes in those kind of areas while they're down here at that gen, that's very awkward. All the while, someone could be pressuring this far gen. I wouldn't want to commit too much in chase to someone because they can then get the gens done. Remember, I've only got Ruin for Regression perk, and that would only activate if they get off it. But at this point, it looks like I've actually kind of lost the game, doesn't it? Right, someone's gone for the unhook. Oh, and someone's at main. We just saw them running towards that far gen I mentioned. I'm not gonna lie as well, Cajun here wasn't the best option. Cajun is specific to Pyramid Head and it sends them off to typically the furthest away point on the map. So it's probably actually where that other person went to that gen just now. I should have gone over to hook them in this kind of middle area. Maybe here. Yeah, they're probably, yeah, exactly. Cage over there. Oh, okay. So, a few things. Remember, I said, leave this gen till last. I'll probably cage this time, right? Yeah. Because it's quicker for me to then pressure that far gen again. Oh, would you look at that? Right. So, we know 2 people on that edge map. They just got that gen done. We know someone's just gone for that save. They gave themselves the worst possible 3 gens left. Right, so now I'm just chasing people at main. To be honest, I should just be leaving this area because there's no reason for me to really be there. Okay, someone's working on middle gen. Oh, and there goes Ruin. So now I have no way to, well, protect the generators, which is even more so helpful for me now because I have that crazy 3 gen. Those were some crazy hits. So now, bear in mind just what I was doing there. I was chasing someone near that other gen. I have someone knocked down in check and someone else has gone for the save. There's only one person potentially doing a gen right now. And it's that middle one. So now, I'm literally putting pressure. Like, oh wow, yeah, I had them stuck there. Probably gonna cage and I can go straight back. One of them's going to have to worry about the save at some point. Oh, I can see all of them healing. They've just ran off. Okay, so I saw one of them go to water tower, meaning I know that someone was probably caged around that area. They're not really near the gens right now. They'll probably heal up because everyone's injured. And I kind of also know that middle gen is the only one really being pressured, and it's currently regressing. Along with also now caging another person. They just healed up, so they're still over by water tower. There they are. And one of them's again gonna have to go for the save. Probably on the other side of the map. Oh, would you look at that? So they got saved by the gen that was done last. Imagine how much better that would have been for them if they left that gen. We still see that gen on the left was guessing, but do we see something else here? Yeah, Nurse's calling is telling me people are healing here. Let me get this straight. So when we were chasing this person, who's the only person really doing the correct thing, by the way, I'm literally chasing them where they want me to go, because it's the furthest possible point from all the gens. They are doing the correct move. And that is if they didn't expect their teammates to be doing this. So let's have a look again. Ace is here, so we know he was related to this stuff. In fact, sorry, he might have been the one that was caged, I actually can't remember now. That's to be expected. He's then presumably ran off to the middle gen. But here's the thing, we have 2 people healing there, meaning I knew that all 3 people were over there for the save. And bearing in mind, I'm kind of messing up by committing to this chase. Well, I mean, as you'll see in a second, it worked out for me, but this shouldn't have gone well. And there we go, that's just cool and value. So, oh, to be fair, yeah, I probably caged and then hooked this person. So yeah, I know, okay, that was actually quite nice for me, because that's fairly far away from all the gens. It's enough at least for me to be able to go back on team zone. Remember, that middle gen, that's the one with progress. I believe the other 2 don't have progress anyway, and it's only around 50% progress after that entire time. Any hook from now on is really going to hurt them with that hit. Oh, and that person got saved at water tower. Whoa. That was quite nice, I'm not gonna lie. We still don't see the final piston moving, so I know it's not as if it's about to pop in front of my face. Oh, never mind, it is moving, my bad. It's not that fast, so I'm gonna estimate maybe like 80-90% progress. This is the smartest thing that Ace has done all game. Going the edge back so that even if I do down him, it's a bit awkward. And yeah, they did actually manage to get last gen done. But do we think they're going to be able to open a gate? So, what did we learn from that? Be careful about which gens you do. In a map like Dead Dog, the 2 gens which are always guaranteed are the gallows and the main building. They also happen to be 2 which you should leave till the end because of how awkward they are to do. And that was a perfect example of a game that looked like I was losing. Remember how the beginning went? That wasn't me playing well, that was actually me playing badly, I'd say, for the most part. It was because they did even worse. So I hope that shows just the power of a 3-gen. So in the first guide I made, I kind of went through very specific loops. But to be honest, I feel like a lot of it comes with experience in a way. With a little loop like this, where it's just these boxes, trees, and then a pallet here. I mean, it's kind of self-explanatory, you know, you just have to kind of go around this. If the killer keeps on following you, you drop it. As you may have guessed, it's best to try and avoid this area. So let's say the killer is here. Of course, you're going to drop it so that they don't hit you. Now, the killer can either choose to break it, or they can actually just go around. In which case, it's probably best not to vault this. Suppose you could say they're around here. If they go around that way, if you try and vault that, they are hitting you. That's for sure. And I mean, if they anticipate this vault and they don't want to risk trying to hit you, they'll definitely hit you before you can try and vault back or try and get away at all. So the best part is, while they're at this pallet, whether or not they choose to break it, you should probably try and go around this way. Because from that point, they either follow you around, break it, both of which would give you quite a bit of distance, or alternatively they could try and cut you off this way round. But by that point, you'd have probably already reacted and already known to go back here. So I feel like this kind of loop is already something you'd understand. And I mean, a similar thing goes for a loop over here. I mean, it's not as easy to react to, but I actually recently learnt, I think people call this a god rock, and it's because when the pallet's dropped here, I suppose you'd want it to be on this side, wouldn't you? Yeah, it's longer. So you'd be at this pallet and you want the killer to go around this way. You could literally wait around here, I suppose, because if they then try and go around, at this point, you're probably safe to vault it. And if they try and double back because you just vaulted, think you then have enough time to react to them going round again, and then you being able to vault back. I suppose it's a bit of a different story if they try and go around this way, because I feel like they can probably hit quite easy. Or at the very least, I feel like it'd be a lot riskier. Let's say you drop this pallet, and they don't break it and choose to go around this instead. Then, yeah, you might be best going around this way, or just trying to run off somewhere else. But if I'm being honest, the way I learned of how people play around any of this is just from experience. I learned how a killer might play through playing Survivor, because I'd see how a killer would do it, and alternatively, when I played killer, I'd see how a survivor would go around these. So just like I said in the first guide, I think the most valuable part about getting good at all is of course just experience. A few things I didn't really go into though, and to be honest, it's not something I usually actually think about much, especially when playing killer. It's to do with a concept we call zoning, and just overall thinking about distance, I suppose you could say. So if we go back to this example, I'll give you a few seconds to think about, from the killer side this time, not as a survivor player. If you're playing killer, let's say the survivor just dropped this. I'll avoid the music, so hopefully you should be able to see the Wraith moving about here. This is the killer who can cloak himself, so he's a bit invisible as you can see. So let's say he's right here. What's their best move to try and get you? Just if you're wondering, the two options are to break the pallet or to leave it. In this situation, so I just dropped it and they're on that side. Best thing as a killer is to not break this pallet. If they are that close to you and they decide to go all the way around, so they're here right next to you, that gives them quite a good chance of getting you. Because first of all, if you're just going around this little loop you see here, there's no way, if they're there and they try and go around this way, that if you then try and make it all the way back to the pallet, that they don't hit you. That is not happening. They are definitely going to get you. Alternatively, you can try and risk it by trying to vault over this pallet, but as I was saying earlier, they can keep on doubling back to then hit you. If you think back to when I first dropped this, there was that time where the survivor was stood still for a bit, couldn't move at all while the pallet was being dropped. If the killer's right next to you, which is what normally happens when you drop a pallet, usually within stunning range, they'd probably already be at around this point if they're just trying to go all the way around. From that point, you've kind of got to think about what you can actually do there to waste the killer's time as much as possible. It isn't staying at this pallet, it's going somewhere else. I've got another loop here. There's also shack there, but as I already said, the killer's already quite close to when you drop the pallet. The best chance, I'd say, of not getting hit is taking the vault here. Alternatively, you can take a bit of a gamble, because if the killer's here and they see you running towards that window, they might try and cut you off to then hit you there. In which case, you could pretend to vault it and continue then running. Because if the killer then realises what they did wrong and tries to double back to go down here, you still have tons of distance to then make it to this pallet, and then again, you're wasting even more time for them. So this is what I'm trying to get at. These small loops, I mean, to be fair, this is quite a strong loop to go all the way around, because if they're following you and you vault, if they're not breaking that pallet, let's say it's a different situation, you're not that close to each other, you're on the opposite ends and you keep on going around. It is quite strong, but it's not there to last, is it now? It's not amazing. Pallets like that, they're even riskier in a way, unless you're very experienced and know what you're doing, because the killer can catch you off guard quite a lot. So the point I'm trying to get at with this is to recognise when a loop is not that good, or even just when it's time to stop looping that area, and recognising that you still have more areas you can go to. The second the killer is on you at a loop, you don't have to stay there if you're able to leave it. You can waste the killer's time so much by doing this kind of stuff. Also, just for the record, if the killer instead kept on following you to this window, rather than trying to catch you off guard this way, they follow you around, keep an eye on what they're doing. So if they go around that way, you know that they're going to be there. Go around that way, you know be there. If they go around this way, run that way. Look at which way they're going down. If they're going down that way, you can in fact make it back to this pallet, go around this way. In this situation, look, they'd either be around there or down there. If they're following you all the way down here, you can go to shack, you can make it to that place again, you could even potentially make it around this loop again. If they then choose to break the pallet, watch how much distance Survivor gets if the killer chooses to break. That much. Now, if you're new, that might not look like much, especially since killers are faster than survivors, unless they're nurse. But I'm telling you now, from this distance, you could definitely make it there, if they're following you all the way around. You could alternatively go around to make it to this window, unless they cut you off. In which case, you can go around this way, make it to the pallet. I think it's about here, wasn't it? I can also, because it might be a bit too risky, they might have been a bit too close, but it's possible that you'd make it here. Now, I do realise I kind of accidentally ended up doing what I previously did by kind of saying what you should do at a loop. So I hope that already explained enough looping wise, but something I think is quite important, mainly as a killer, is to do with this idea of zoning. In fact, let's have this pallet broken, just like that. In fact, we could also break that pallet over there. Now let's look at this area. If you're going off in this direction, the next safe loop is going to be shack. That's a lot of distance. So let's say you're in this area. I suppose you've also got the pallet here. But you've now just got this window and a pallet at these rocks. It's a lot more dangerous. So let's start back over here. Let's say you're going around this loop. Now as a survivor, knowing that these loops are dangerous, your best bet is after this loop to be able to go over here, or perhaps even main building over there. So if we look at this pallet here, let's say we just dropped it after looping, killers may be trying to mind game you, that kind of thing. As a killer, the best thing to do is to break it from this side. So in other words, the survivor is on the other side of the pallet over here. Because when they've broken it, and you want to go over there, they will easily cut you off. I'll give a rough estimate of where they'd be if they did it. I imagine they'd catch up with you around here. So that is an obvious no-go. And of course there's no loop in here. There's just this hill. The only place to go, if they've just broken this pallet, is to go back over here. You've got this window. If you happen to have light or something, I suppose that could work out for you. And well, by the time you reach this window, they're probably already at least in this kind of area, I'd say. Meaning that you're obviously not going to make it all the way to shack over there. So what's left here? You're going around this window, but I suppose the safest thing is probably this pallet. Now I can't say for sure, but let's say this pallet dropped, and they break it on that side, so survivors here. If they then break it, and you W key all the way to shack, it's possible, but as a killer, let's say survivors on the other side now. So the way that would happen is, let's say you're here, killer's gone all the way around here. You have to vault that, otherwise you're going to get hit. I mean, technically you could also go around this way, but if they do that, still kind of keeping you here, aren't they? So let's say they broke it over there, so survivors here. You've only got this window now. All of these pallets are gone. The next strong loop is over here, but that's nowhere near. You're not making that. There's now nothing safe for you, really. And we call this zoning. It's something I've never really thought about much when I play killer, and I feel like it's very important because no matter how bad you are at killer, you can kind of get the survivors quite easily if you eventually just give them nowhere to go. But that's also why choosing the right side to break the pallet on is very important, because it's the difference between not letting them go anywhere or giving them another loop. Even around a loop like this, just this car and the pallet, it looks quite dangerous if the killer's here and the pallet's been dropped, right? So if they break it here, survivors over here. Unfortunately there's no pallet here, so you'd have to make it there. But as you can see, they'd hit you about here, I reckon. So that's a no-go. You have to go around this way. Whereas if you as the killer were here, survivor here, they break, I reckon you make it to this loop. In fact, I can almost guarantee you make it to this loop. Once they break it and you're here, you can definitely make it to this window here, giving you a pallet here, loop there, loop there. Now, of course, around a loop like this, there are no pallets. It's just windows. However, the pathing you do as killer, so that is to say, the way you go around loops, that kind of thing can still very much influence how a survivor plays. Because let's say you're at this window, this is actually very strong for the record, because if the killer's here, you vault this, you either have to worry, normally anyway, about them either going here this way or just vaulted over, in which case you'd react accordingly. But here, and because of the distance you'd have, because you're going directly through walls, whereas the killer has to go all the way around, if the killer, after you vaulted this, went round that way, you can keep on going, and then just go down here. You can make it to that loop, if they're following you around that way. You can make it to the pallet here. Alternatively, if they're going around this way, go there. And if they try and go down one of these, the survivor can keep on going. They can potentially go all the way around to make this pallet. If I can find it. I think it's over here or something. Okay, here it is. So at first, this looks like one of the 4 lanes. So the pallet over there, window here, and then there's just this random pallet here which for some reason has, yeah, just a wall here, and through this bush a wall here. That's not it. There is also, you might not believe it, but a vault here. Now admittedly this one isn't too safe because, well, it's just this wall with the vault. But bear in mind that if you vault that, killer could go around there. You're a survivor, of course. Killer just following. It's possible you make it back to this pallet. After that, vault. Alternatively, you vault. Killer goes around this way. Blah de blah de blah. So it's just things like that as well. I suppose you could call it just general map knowledge. It's known that things like this, which as a new player I doubt you'd expect to be a vault, is indeed a vault. Now this pallet is actually quite a good example of something I haven't really mentioned yet, and it's a bit of a gamble. It's what we call greeding. It's for the survivor to not drop the pallet at all. As the killer, you want to avoid getting stunned. If you get stunned, regardless of whether you break this pallet or not, the survivor's going to make a whole lot of distance because the stun animation is for quite a while. Even more so if you decide to break it after getting stunned. That just gives them so much distance. So either way, you want to avoid getting stunned. If you're about to hesitate, let's say the survivor at this pallet, and you go like that because you think the survivor's about to drop it. What if the survivor, knowing you're about to hesitate, then goes there? They've still kept this pallet up, and they've now gone on the other side of this window, in which you're going to have to either go around here, or around here, or vault over it, of course, and then they can make it over to this pallet here. Alternatively, if you went around here, they could go all the way around here, pallet, or potentially better for their case, go around this way, probably staying around here to see which way you'd go around this point, but ideally for them, then looping around this way, dropping the pallet, or potentially greeding it again, and making it to that window again. So greeding can also be very strong, but let's say you expect them to greed. That's a hit right there. It's high risk, high reward for the survivor to greed, basically. Alternatively, I mean, if you're a killer like Vecna, it doesn't really work. Skeletons here, or block the pallet so that they can't, you know they won't be able to drop it in the first place. But with these, if you did that, you can walk right through it. So, just as we're coming to an end now, I thought maybe I should say a few other things I hadn't brought up, like how, for example, whenever survivors stuck in an animation, like vaulting, if they're holding an item, the item disappears for a bit. It's actually something I covered in the Pyramid Head guide, but I think the problem is, this is targeted towards new players, and I think the last thing you'd really want is to be told even more stuff on top of what's already been said here, because I already remember when I started how overwhelming it felt, I think the best thing to do is just to play. This video is more so just a way for you to understand stuff about the game. I don't think it's as if you'd suddenly get miles better after watching this or anything. Especially if you're playing Survivor as well. There's a lot of things to know for each specific killer. I mean, again, with the Pyramid Head guide, that was specifically on that one killer. And that was like, what, an hour 15 minutes or something? And of course, as always, I hope regardless this still helped. And if there's anything specific which you might be confused by, or that I didn't cover, then do feel free to let me know. I'm sure there might have been some things I overlooked because I just wasn't really thinking about it. And with all of that being said, I'll see you all in the next one.